Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about something very, very important, right? We're going to be talking about the charts a little bit, but we're also going to be showing you the perspective, right? Of, how small crypto is compared to, something else, like say the stock market, okay? So we can see this is the total market cap. We're at $3.1 trillion. And you're probably like, well, that is a lot of money, right? Doesn't mean there's necessarily 3.1 trillion in here right now. Obviously, if you were to sell everything at the current price without a dumping, that's how much it would be. But, the market cap is 3.1 trillion. So you're probably like, well, wow, that's already a good amount. We are expecting to be, going up a couple of trillion in this cycle, which is absolutely crazy. Some people think it's kind of impossible. People think, 6 trillion is possible and very likely, as do I. But, some people also are, a little bit more, I guess, optimistic, thinking about like the 9 to 12 or 16 trillion area. And of course, the higher we go, the less, people are like, oh, it's like, obviously it's gonna be less likely because, it has to go higher, more money, and etc. But here's the thing, people, right? Here's the thing. This looks kind of crazy now. Getting to these price points of, 6, 9, 12, 16, right? It looks kind of impossible. Not necessarily 6 trillion, but, kind of getting to 9, 12, and 16 trillion is pretty hard. And a lot of people might think, hey, it's not that possible. But what if I told you if we keep going up and up, we can see we're at 100 trillion. This 126 trillion is where the stock market is currently, right? And what if I told you if we go up higher and higher that this was the 2024 top of 175 trillion market cap in the stock market? Now, obviously, we are not the stock market, we are crypto, we are much smaller. But what do you notice? Well, what I notice is, there is lots and lots of room for there to be purchases and development, and the world is super behind on crypto, and the world's not ready for how crypto is going to be over the next coming years. We can see, we are all the way down here at 3 trillion market cap, right? If I take away these zones that we marked up, right, we can see that we are all the way down here. But here's the reality, right? I'm not saying this cycle, I'm not saying next cycle, I'm not saying even 12 years from now. But one day there's a good high probability that we will be up to date over here. Right? There's also a chance that at one point, with how great the blockchain is and how great crypto can be, that crypto global total market cap can overtake possibly the stock market cap. Now, of course, even if it happens, let's say in 20 years, that means the stock market cap will most likely be much higher at that point, which means, even more money in crypto. But look, this is perspective, right? This is all about perspective because we can see at this current moment, right, we are here in market cap. I talk about how, when stocks go down a couple percent, it's like trillions lost and vice versa. But guys, crypto, it's like billions. A couple billion gets pumped in, and all of a sudden we're up a couple of percent. It's just crazy. It's crazy how the ratios are so much smaller. And the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, we know that global liquidity is going to be on the rise, and it is going to be coming into the crypto market really heavily. Okay, we've seen the news surrounding crypto, we've seen all the pro crypto stuff, especially since Trump won, and we know there is going to be a massive rally. So to put into perspective, people, do you really think, now that I showed you the stock market's at 100, 25 trillion currently, do you really think something like 6 trillion won't get smashed? Do you really think like 9 trillion right now is not a high probability? Do you think like something 12 trillion is decently likely? Do you think that 16 trillion, yes, it is quite high, but do you think it is impossible to hit this cycle, especially if we have a double top? For me, that is a no. Now, personally, I would like to see something like this, where we just kind of keep going, and then we have a big crash and we go like this, right? Now, the reality is we probably will have something like this. If anything, usually there's always some type of double top. Now, the biggest reality is we most likely would have a top like this where we go down, crash a decent amount, recover, and then we go to the 16 trillion, which is fine, because I don't mind rebuying in if I see opportunities, right? I just want the first pump to be very big and clean. Hopefully we get to like the 10 trillion mark. It sounds crazy, right? I used to ask for 4 or 5 or 6 trillion, but then I was like, you know what? Let me just look at the data, what the data says, how much money is expected to be coming into the markets, what is this total stock market cap, what is our market cap, and what is realistic, right? We know the world's going crazy with printing money. Multiple countries are printing money. Money is going to be coming into the markets. It's just how it is. Welcome to manipulation. Welcome to the world, right? You either are a part of it and you make money, or you can just cry about it and be on the sidelines and not take opportunities in something like crypto, right? That is just the reality, right? That is just the reality. So we can see, right? Something like this most likely will play out. I do believe that we can very well hit 12 trillion in market cap. It sounds crazy now, but you got to remember that at one point, people were all the way down here talking about, getting to a certain market cap, and then it got to, wow, this amount. And then we were all the way down here, and then we got to 3 trillion in market cap, right? So, I expect it to, at the minimum, double. And that's if it kind of was like a dud, to be honest. So if it's not a dud, then I expect things to be going higher and higher. Like I said, if there is going to be a double pump, we'll obviously be monitoring and looking at everything in the moment, right? We cash out very, very well during the first cycle. You have to cash out during the first cycle, because even if your coin, let's say, you bought render at $5 and went to, let's say, $80, but then it could have peaked at 110. You selling around 80, rebuying when it's much lower, and it's selling around, like, let's say, 100, 110 would be much more profitable than you simply just holding for that extra money, especially that the double pump is not guaranteed, right? Obviously, game plans like that will be discussed heavily in the Discord community. That is where we are preparing for all circumstances. That is where, you'll get the quickest and most up-to-date news. But yeah, we can see, right? So the world, guys, the world is not prepared for crypto pumps, right? You think right now we look at certain coins, right? You think this is low. You think, oh, getting to a certain amount for these coins is, highly not likely, right? We look at all these coins, like look at how much they're pumping in just a single day. And it's not even altcoin season. It's not even altcoin season, right? So imagine what's going to happen when altcoin season is going to be here. We are seriously going to pump like this, like daily, if not even more, for like weeks, for like four to 8 weeks. We're going to see like 20% consistent pumps, and that adds up, right? That adds up. We're going to be seeing huge global liquidity, right? If we go to something like the top 101 to 200, right, we could see we got some other ones, Safe, with Baby Doge, 31% here. Arrow, Mog did good. Turbo, Turbo 16%, which is actually pretty good considering how much we pumped 2 weeks ago. SPX, Safe, Baby Doge, yeah. If all these coins, right, and you see a lot of meme coins, some utility coins, some AI coins, but you have all these coins, pumping super heavy, and that is what we love to see. I will say, just this cycle, we got to be careful. There's probably gonna be the most amount of hackers ever, but that's something else we got to worry about and manage. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, look, right? Hopefully, I put it into perspective that look, stock market is all the way up here in terms of the amount of global liquidity. We are all the way down here. Do not get discouraged or discredited, or not discredited, discouraged, right? And cut yourself short, right? Simply follow the data. Follow the channel, follow other channels, join communities. This time is going to be the most important time of your lives. I'm telling you. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy. I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.